Okay, so let's review a little bit oligopoly theory and do a problem set with some actual numbers rather than letters in algebra. So we have an inverse demand function which is 14 minus q1 plus q2. So the intercept is 14 and the slope is an invisible 1. So I'll just draw that here, the inverse demand function. So that goes from 14 to 14. So that would be the demand function. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Okay, and we have a marginal cost function this time, which is 2. So let's add that as well. Maybe a different color, maybe red. Okay, so now let's see. Questions 1 to 4 refer to the Cournot duopoly. What's the total revenue function for firm 1? Okay, so let's derive that one. So the total revenue, maybe I can do it here. So for firm 1, total revenue is the price, which is 14, minus Q1, and then I'll just do it like this. So that's the price times Q1. Okay, so we can multiply through 14 Q1 minus Q1 times Q1 minus Q1 squared minus Q2 times Q1. Okay, so the correct answer is 14 Q1 minus Q1 squared, so that is C. What's the marginal revenue function for firm 1? So the marginal revenue is the first derivative. That's all for 1. $14 minus 2Q1 minus Q2. So 14 minus 2Q1 minus Q2. What is firm 1's response function? Okay, so how do we get the response function? So if we draw so we have the profit maximizing condition, which is, I'll do it here. So marginal revenue is 14 minus 2Q1 minus Q2. That has to be equal to the marginal cost of 2. I put it here. So 14 minus 2Q1 minus Q2 is equal to the marginal cost of 2. And then I can subtract on both sides the 2. Then I get here a 12 and here a 0. And then I rearrange terms, so 2Q1 equals 12 minus Q2. and then I divide both sides by 2, and then I get Q1 star 12 divided by 2, that's 6, minus 1/2 Q2. Okay, so I'll draw that in here quickly. So 6 minus 1/2 so 6 minus 1/2 Q. Okay, so this is the red one, and actually here in this graph to the right, I'll just draw the overall result. So this is P and this is Q. So that means if Q1 is 6 minus 1/2 Q, the other starts here at 6 and has also slope and goes till 12. So I'll make that in blue. Okay, so now we have the two response function. So Q2 would be also 6 minus 1/2, but Q1, but of course we gotta, look a little bit differently on the axes to get it. And now we can actually see that the equilibrium is at a quantity of 4. So if we draw it, we can actually see it that the equilibrium must be 4. Okay, so that's 4. Of course, we can also solve it mathematically if we want to, so we just have to equate those two equations. Okay, so why can't I? Okay, the optimum quantity is 4. I don't know why I can't. Because it's still... Okay. Well, let's do it like this. Draw Q equals 4. Okay, what will be the Coulomb equilibrium price? So now if each company or each firm produces 4, so now we can go to this graph where we have here Q and the x-axis. That means 4 and 4 in total, so that's 8. So now we just go up here and we can see that the Coulomb duopoly price is 6. total quantity is 8. And each firm gets 4. So price is 8. Sorry, 6. Total quantity is 8, so that is 6. What will be the consumer surplus? So the consumer surplus is okay, it looks like it's locked in. So insert, let's see if it works now. Well, it looks like I can't escape the drawing tool, so let's see if I can. So obviously total consumer surplus is 8 times 8, which is 64 over 2, so that's 32. What will be the combined producer surplus of firm 1 and firm 2? So the combined producer surplus would be this area here. And that is 8 times 6, 48. So that's 48. And what will be the total surplus? In the duopoly, that's the 32 consumer surplus times plus the 48. So did I do something wrong? 8 times 8, 64 over 2, 34, 48. Oh, of course, the producer surplus is everything above the supply function. One of the few advantages of multiple choice questions is if you don't see the right answer, so that means that the producer surplus is only 1, 2, 3, 4 times 8, 32. So now we have 64, and now it makes sense. So the next question referred to the so now we assume that the firm 1 is the leader. And what is firm 1's leader, the leader's demand function? Okay, so now the trick here is that we already need to insert into the demand function the response of the follower. And the response of the follower, we said is 6 minus 1/2. So Q2's response will always be 6 minus 1/2 Q1. So now the leader will incorporate that into the demand function. And that is 14 minus Q1 plus 6 minus 1/2 Q1. So that's now the demand function. And then we can say 14 minus 6, okay. 14 minus 6, so that will be an 8. Okay. And then we have here an entire Q1 and a half Q1, so minus 1/2 Q1. So again, 14 minus 6, 8 minus half a Q1. So 8 minus that's a total revenue function. 8, okay. So 8 minus half Q1. And then the total revenue function is the price, 8 minus 1/2 Q1 times Q1, or 8 Q1 minus 1/2 Q1 squared. So 8 Q1 minus 0.5 Q1 squared, so that's A. Then the marginal revenue is the first derivative. It's 8 minus Q1. That's 8 minus Q1, so that's also 8. And then what is the optimum quantity? So marginal revenue has to equal marginal cost. And then we solve for the optimum quantity, so it's 8 minus Q1. Marginal cost is 2. That means the optimum quantity is 6. That's for the leader. So probably the next question is, okay, so we can already hear. Let's make that in green. So that's the Stackelberg leader. So the next question is probably, what is the optimum quantity for the follower? So we have the response function here, 6 minus half Q1. So 6 minus half Q1, so that's then, because Q1 is 6, half 3, 6 minus 3, 3. So the total quantity in the Stackelberg leader world, they produce together 9, and the price will be 5. So that's the price, Stackelberg leader follower. What is firm 2's followers optimum quantity. Yeah, that's what we just calculated. That's the 3. Together they produce 9. So what will be the Stackelberg equilibrium price? I just said this is 5. What will be the consumer surplus in the Stackelberg equilibrium? Okay, so consumer surplus is everything above here. I don't know why it switched to green, but it's this triangle here. So that's 9 times 9, it's 81 over 2, so that's 40.5. What will be the combined producer surplus of firm 1 and firm 2 in the Stackelberg? Combined producer surplus. Okay, so it's everything above marginal cost. That would be all the way to quantity of 9. So this yellow area, which is 1, 2, 3, 3 times 9, so that's 27. How big is firm 1's producer surplus? So firm 1 gets more. This is firm 1, which is 6 times 1, 2, 3, so that's 18. And firm 2 would be this area here. So that is 3 times 3, so that's only 9. What will be the total surplus in the Stackelberg equilibrium? So that's 40.5 plus 27, so that's 67.5. Okay. So now, what if they form a cartel? So the two firms form a cartel. So what they will do is they will first create their marginal revenue function, which is twice as steep. So let's see if I can draw that in there. So draw, insert, shapes. Okay, so I have to draw it by hand. I don't know, let's do the marginal revenue, I don't know, orange. Okay, it's twice as steep, so it cuts through 7. So here, that's the marginal revenue function, twice as steep. And now we can see that the optimum quantity, or the profit maximizing quantity, is also 6. Marginal revenue equals marginal cost, but they charge now a price of 8. So here we have the price of the cartel. So if they act like, what quantity do they offer? They offer together 6. What price do they charge? Well, that's 8. What will be the consumer surplus? So consumer surplus is now basically this area here, which is 6 times 6 over 2. So 36 over 2, it's 18. Oops. It's 18. What will be the combined producer surplus? So that will be this area here. That's 6 times 6, 36. So total surplus is 18 plus 36, which is 54. Okay. Oh, that's it. Okay, well, what about Bertrand competition equilibrium? There's no question to it, but let's just do it to be complete. Well, if there were Bertrand competition, then they would say, you know what, I lower the price. Let's say let's say even if it's a Stackelberg leader follower, why wouldn't the follower say, you know what, I cut the price to 4.999. Well, then I get the entire demand. But then the leader will say again, well, then I have to cut it to 4.98, and it will be raised to the bottom until we are somewhere here, where price equals marginal cost. So that will be the equilibrium of Bertrand, which is the same as in perfect competition. And then there wouldn't be any producer surplus, and everything would be just consumer surplus. It would be 12 times 12, 144 over 272. But yeah, I hope that this example illustrated again the difference between the Cournot duopoly, Stackelberg leader follower, and Bertrand competition and the cartel. And again, the major criticism is that the Cournot duopoly and the Stackelberg leader follower model, that they compete through quantities, which doesn't make any sense. So then Bertrand came along and basically said, look, they will constantly undercut each other to get the entire market share. What keeps them from doing so? And then there will be a race to the bottom, which will end at a quantity of 12, and that will be equal to the perfectly competitive equilibrium. So the frustration with oligopoly theory was that it doesn't really seem to be super realistic and very limited to still the conceptual tools of demand and supply, which are not necessarily the best way to understand strategic interaction between firms. So therefore we have something which is a little bit more elaborate, and that doesn't rely anymore on demand and supply analysis, and that is game theory, and we will start working on that one in a different video. So, but this is the basics of oligopoly theory.